So welcome to the Node.js benchmarking working group meeting for March 5th, 2019. We'll follow our standard agenda and then any other issues that people want to discuss as well. So let me just open up that issue. So first of all, does anybody have any announcements that they want to share?
This is Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi. We said hi a little earlier, but yeah, so welcome to the benchmarking meeting.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
If you would like to add your sort of GitHub handle and stuff, I'll paste the link into the chat. Just if you can add yourself in there, that would be good. Right, okay, so moving on to the agenda. So the first one is, and some of these I don't know if we'll make any progress on, but like investigate the time taken number of benchmarks in core. I know Gareth was looking at that, but we haven't seen Gareth for quite some time. I think.
So I did this on my local server. It takes really long time in all its variations. If I just do every benchmark or every micro benchmark runs like 30 times and things like that.
Yep.
So at least it ran for me almost 3 days, all the work, all the micro benchmarks. So I don't know whether that's really good idea to run all those in our infrastructure. Maybe we can pick some, maybe buffer or a few of them, maybe trim down the options.
That's exactly what we were struggling with, is that it's too long to run it all regularly, right? So it was kind of like, can we find a set which makes sense to run, some subset or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I was always thinking that, for example, the trimming down. So for example, in buffer, you have alloc and unsafe alloc. So we can ignore the unsafe alloc because they are going to be deprecated anyway. And in order to measure the performance, we can just pick which are relevant within buffer. Maybe alloc is good enough, and that way we can reduce the number of benchmarks it will run.
Yep. It sounds like you're starting to take a look at that. Do you want to volunteer to take that one?
only thing is that so there are some little bit of changes happening in my group. So I may not have time to do exactly that, but if that is something interesting, I can ask one of my teammates to join this meeting. And that they can contribute. Though I will attend the meeting, but I may not directly, work on that. I'm going to work on this required performance for sure.
Yeah.
But I'll ask someone else to look at that and.
Sure. No, I think if you have somebody who will take ownership and run with it, that's great. It's sort of been one I think we all have agreed it's a good, we want to leverage those tests if we can, but we need somebody who's got enough time to figure out how to do that in a good, how do we do that practically?
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to temporarily assign it to you with the assumption that I'll
find a person, yeah.
You're going to find the person, assign it to whoever and so forth. Okay.
And the template to add workload should be the exactly same what I did for Node.js so that I can explain them what to do and how to add a workload.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, no, it sounds good. Yeah, like same steps, and it would be like some configuration to say, okay, run this smaller set and capture. It's also like, because it generates so many numbers, how do we take those numbers and put into one number or two numbers or like some small number of numbers that we can track that makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, no, but that's great if you can get somebody who's going to push that forward. Ghost, that one was one that you were looking at, right?
Yeah, so we last time we discussed that since I think it was the request came from Google Engineer, which was on Brumer. So I don't know whether that is still relevant. Do we still want to track? And I think I mentioned that the Ghost workload, the way it runs, it does not build with the master branch. which I tried. It does not work. So we won't be able to get the numbers with the master and the canary build of Node.
Right. And I think you even, I do remember a little bit that you mentioned you didn't think it was necessarily a good test, right?
Yeah, because it just delivers a static page. First time it runs and then just delivers a static page. At least I did not think it is relevant unless someone has relevant reason.
Okay. I'm just taking a note in the issue. It was commented, is the best one to pursue, and so it doesn't run with master, right?
Yeah, it does not work with master branches, or in our case, it won't work with canary build also.
Right, canary.
So
sorry, go ahead.
I just put into the chat a selection of other projects that, according to Screen, which is a small Node startup, are awesome. Some of which might be more interesting than Ghost in terms of the complexity of what they're doing.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get out. Okay, I'm out of full screen. So I was basically commenting that we'll close this issue for now. Like Udem's looked at it, doesn't run on master. We haven't made progress, and like you said, there's probably other things that are more interesting.
Yeah, the lack of running on master makes it feel like maybe that's not a good place to invest a bunch of effort.
Yep. Okay, so we'll just close that one and move on to where did you put the other ones? You just put them into awesome, right in the link. Got it.
Yeah, I can put them.
That does have a link to the Ghost though.
Yeah, of course.
In a circular, but okay.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good to have that list of potential.
I mean, I have done all the work. Ghost, I did put, I remember it has two components. It has three components. One is the MySQL it needs. I did put that into my Docker container. It was so that it would be easy to run. Then I put Ghost itself in container. And of course, the AB is the client. The client is simple. Only the problem is it does not build or will not run with master and the canary dev version of any Node.js. So that's the only trouble I have. Unless if we really think that that list is valid and we want to look at all those projects on that list, we may have to just kind of create some kind of patch so that it would work with master. But then that means we'll be changing something in the workload.
Well, I think the comment that you made that having looked at it, and you don't think that it's really stressing what we would want to be testing anyway.
Yeah. It is not dynamic. Yeah.
I would look at the other ones first.
If it's static, it's probably doing basically what Acme Air is doing.
Right.
Come in, hit a database, return the string. In which case, it might not be giving us.
Yeah, this is just a static web pages. So there are many URLs. Like in Node.js, it kind of dynamically generates URLs. Well, that is not the case with Ghost. So you have to build a logic to kind of generate static URLs so that you can get the images, you can get some data from database. Also, you have to build that client, which is not there.
Yeah.
That's in addition to existing problems. So I don't think it is really relevant.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's good to have the note, possibly look at some of those others. But otherwise, I think just closing it and figuring out, other places if we have cycles makes sense to me. So moving on to the next one, simplify the infrastructure. I think, Jamie, if I remember correctly, you were looking at that one?
I have not made progress on that.
Okay.
For reasons that will come up shortly, but not yet.
Okay, so it's. I mean, should we leave it on the agenda? Leave it tagged against you, or?
Yeah, you can leave it. Sure, doesn't hurt.
Okay. Candidate benchmarks. You that one.
No progress on that for reasons that will also become clear shortly.
Okay.
So that leaves this last thing on the agenda that I just stuck there.
The Node.js microservices fix?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jonathan, my helpful assistant, has been trying to run the Node benchmarking suite locally. And Udom, you may recall a while back, back in September, that I opened this complaint against Node.js in microservices mode. I got these HTTP 400 errors on the client side.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that, but let me paste the link into this doc. So we're trying to run the microservices mode of Node.js because it does something noticeably different from the monolithic mode. And when you run it on the client side, when you run it in microservices mode, the client gets errors printed to its log, which is weird. And Jonathan has identified the cause for that and opened this pull request, which I stuck the link in here. So he opened PR number 81. And he can explain what happened if you'd like to hear it.
Okay. So
Jonathan,
I'll take a look while you're continuing.
Yeah, Jonathan, can you sort of give the 3-sentence description of what was going on? Jonathan, you're muted, by the way. You're still muted.
All right, there it goes.
There we go.
It wouldn't unmute. But the error we're getting was, like Jamie said, the 400 bad URL error. And what it looked like was requests to add new user were being made, but there was no last name in the data that was sent.
Oh, I see.
And that was what was causing the error. So looking at the monolithic version, it seemed that there were not enough last names, and in the monolithic version it creates them to make sure that there's enough, and it wasn't doing that in microservices. So we just added that.
Okay. I'll take a look, and how about you just submitted that, right? I'll take a look. Okay.
Yep. It just looks like a case of code duplication, and then one part wasn't updated in sync with the other one. I don't think that the nightly runs currently include the microservices mode of Node.js.
No, we
so
don't.
We could, with this patch, it will run without errors.
Yeah, but Odin, how did you find running so many services? Because the currently Node.js microservices mode, even the code is there. I never really tested it all the way from end to end. Did some testing, made sure it works, but not really, not like how the monolithic or the cluster version works in Node.js.
Yeah.
Did you find it easy to use other than that error?
Yeah, I mean, the instructions you gave were pretty clear. So you just launch each of the services. We're launching them all on the same machine. And then you run the client, and the client's the same in both versions. But so as long as all the microservices are run on the same machine, there shouldn't be weird network problems associated with that. So you should just be seeing Node inter-process communication /network/ all these extra DNS levels that we don't get from the current benchmarks. So I think it would be worth putting in. There have been issues.
If I approve this, will Jonathan will be able to push it to our benchmarking?
Yeah, Jonathan can create a benchmark or one of the benchmark jobs for the microservices.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. Right, Jonathan?
Does it take anything special to set up, or is it just starting a bunch of different processes?
It's basically it's the same as the other one, but you just launched 8 node instances instead of 1.
Okay. I guess the difference might be figuring out just how the pinning should be done for those, or do we just pin them all to the same client one? But okay.
Yeah, I think we just round robin them across the course on the benchmark machine.
Right. Okay.
So you have to think about each service as a one node application. Right?
Yeah.
We probably, other than maybe the client, I think today we pinned the database to one CPU, the client to one CPU, and then maybe the other 2 CPUs are used for the app.
Mm-hmm.
Does that match what you remember, Udam?
Yeah. So that's exactly what we do right now. We have, I think, CPU for client, but database and the node process. Yes.
So probably we would want to rotate those 8 across the 2 CPUs that were
So the MongoDB is very parallelized. It has almost, it can support 100,000 parallel connections. It's a multi-threaded one. So I have not seen big bottleneck because of the MongoDB. And since they all microservices uses individual tables, so it can be same database but a different collection. I think there should not be any conflict.
Right,
So
I'm just thinking like today we pin client, database, and the Node app separately. Do what we do for this new one, do we do the same thing and just have like the 8 ones which are now the Node app on the 2 CPUs effectively?
Yeah, that should be good enough.
That should be fine.
Yeah, that should still work, and without any extra unless we see some bottleneck, we can find out.
Okay.
But this I have not seen any. Since our machine doesn't have more than 8 cores, is that what you're saying?
I think it's a 4-core.
It's a 4-core machine.
Right.
I remember we had this Intel gave those Broadwell servers, which is like almost 188 core machines. So we don't.
Yeah. So we do have those two, and we do have those two as well. We didn't move any of the existing ones over to that, but maybe what we should do is use them for this, like use those specifically for this one, and have a different job which runs those on that machine.
If that is possible, I think that would be good use of those machines also.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just thinking if there's any, it then posts the data to another shared machine. So I don't think there should be any reason why not to do that. So yes, okay. So Jamie, Jonathan, if by the time if we start to get to the point where we're ready to run it, we should look at running it on the other machine. And then you're right, we could have bigger numbers of, is it something that can scale up, that microservices version? Like is throwing more cores at it going to be a good test, or?
Yeah, I mean, the idea was that you write this microservices, and idea was that each microservice is like a different service, and each can be clusterized, so that can run multiple cores and scale across the cores. So you can really think about you have authentication. So right now we don't have that, but you think about auth service, you have some other service, and they each can scale as per the load increases in real world. And that's what I was trying to mimic with that use case. So it should scale with multiple cores for sure.
Okay.
And in this case, we use a request module, I think, to communicate across multiple services. So that's something new compared to the monolithic version. So that would be.
Yeah, no, that definitely seems like a good, if that version tests some other things we're not testing, that would be good. And if we move it onto that big machine, because you're right, though, I forget how many cores those machines had, but they had quite a few. So
yeah, the Broadwell I know is an 88 core machine.
Okay, so
44 physical cores with HT on it, they are 88 cores.
Okay. So just yeah, go ahead.
So I will approve the request, and I think, Jonathan, it will be really awesome if you can integrate into our benchmarking suite.
I'll help.
Yep.
Cool.
You'll volunteer and help, right? Okay. So that's the end of what was added to the agenda. Are there other things? Is this? I mean, I guess, Jamie, it's like you've been working on this instead of the other things. Is that the?
Jonathan is my arms.
Okay, right. So that was what you were referring to earlier in terms of this is what you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the two things is like, these two issues, if you're going to focus on the other version of DCIS, would it make sense to remove the benchmarking tag on these other two issues so they don't show up?
That'd be fine.
Okay, and then you can add them back in when it's time to talk about them in the meeting itself, right? Like you don't need to pester you every week if
that's
the focus is somewhere else. Okay. So I guess maybe it would be worthwhile opening an issue just to cover adding in that new version, so that if there's questions, you can answer them there. We can, you can ask them there. We can answer them there. We know where to look to see if, in terms of progress and stuff like that, or if there's anything you need from myself or Udom along the way. So that's good news. I'll mention it since you made the last collaborator summit, but just so that it's on your radar, there is another one in Berlin in the end of May.
Okay, I'll be in Morocco, but thanks.
Yeah, okay. On vacation or a conference or something?
My wife and I help lead a study abroad trip for first-year students, so it's keeping students alive.
Okay, I see. Right, keeping them out of trouble sounds good.
Yeah, helping them out of trouble once they've gotten into it.
Right. Okay. Right. That's the more fun way, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other things we want to talk about this week?
So about that machine, how should I open an issue saying, let's see whether we can add a Broadband machine to the benchmarking suite, just so that we can remember that?
I think we should make it's there. Like, we already have the machines in the farm. What we need to do is, instead of using the existing benchmarking jobs, like we have a benchmarking job which says run these things once a night for these different versions.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of adding a new step to that job, what I think we want to do is create a new job, which can be maybe a clone of that to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And it runs, in parallel, but is targeting those new machines instead.
Okay.
And that would be good, because then we can just add new tests there if we want to. Okay. And we could even decide whether at some point we want to move the existing ones from the current machine, where I think we've kept for consistency, right? Like, if you move it to a different machine and there's a big jump in the charts, that doesn't necessarily help unless we tell everybody. Right. But by doing this new one over there, it's a good stepping stone to say, well, should we move them at some point? Or when we add new ones, it's easy to then add them and they just go onto that machine. So
okay,
I think that's the good next step.
Or at least we can run all current jobs in parallel on that machine. So, and maybe build up some timeline for maybe next 2 months or something. And then one fine day we just switch saying, hey, now we have the numbers.
Yeah, we've switched the numbers, and here's the 2 months. Yeah, exactly. No, I think that we should try that. Keep that in the pipeline as well, because that would work, I think.
Because then that will be easy, so we don't have to do anything separate. Just clone the existing one, just target for that machine.
Yeah, we will. We'd have to tweak them so that they don't publish data on top of each other, right? Like, they need different publish IDs, but as long as we, if we added like 100 to the IDs or something.
Yeah, and the Broadband machine, actually, now I think about it, it will also help with our internal buffer and core benchmarks.
Those already run there.
Oh, those already run there?
But that's where they already run.
Okay.
Now, so like the question would be is if maybe we haven't tried exploiting all the cores or something, right? Like, if we can actually run parallel 80, will the tests run fast enough, and will they be consistent enough?
Does that even benchmark the way they run? Do they have an option to run them in parallel?
I don't know. The regular test suite does have like a parallel set. I suspect that the benchmark ones may not, though, because as soon as you do that, what does that do to your performance and consistency?
Yeah.
So it might require pinning or something, right? Like, if you pinned every test to a different core, maybe that wouldn't interfere. I don't know. We'd have to understand.
Yeah. Okay.
But that job, that job is already set to run on those new machines. Okay. For the exact reason of what you said. If somebody kicks one off and it runs for 2 days, at least it doesn't interfere with our existing stuff right now.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Any other topics?
No.
No. Okay. I'm going to stop the stream.